So it was based on that realization that I set forth in exploring Buddhism further. If this condition was something that I wanted to overcome. Yeah. So just a bit about Buddhism. So as a South African, I didn't know much about Buddhism, to be honest with you. I had preconceived ideas, not great about it. It's probably based on the way I was brought up and what I was conditioned to believe. And it was something that you don't even consider. It's bad. It's not good for you. I didn't even question why it was bad. Then one day, I was in a bookstore. I think I was 24, 25 years old. And I bought a book called The Essential Teachings of the Buddha. 24, 25 years old. And I was so drawn to the book. A bit of curiosity. But took the book, brought it home, wanted to read it. I think I read 1 or 2 pages. And then life happened. When I decided recently to embark on this journey of exploring Buddhism further, I went looking for that book. Now, would you believe it? The book was still there, waiting. More or less the same time, I also I got a Buddhist statue. I think I also bought it in my 20s. And to this day, I still have the Buddha statue. At that point in time, it meant nothing to me. It was merely ornamental. So I had the statue, I had the book. The book was gathering dust, the statue was ornamental. It meant nothing at that point in time. So I found the book, still there. How many years? Probably about 20 years. It's been sitting there waiting to be opened, and for the Dharma to be explored and to be embraced. And I then took it out, dusted off, and started my journey. So on the back of me exploring Buddhism, and the conclusions that I've come to, embarked with great vigor on the process of unconditioning myself and really immersing myself into the teachings, the Dharma, and all aspects of Buddhism, engaging other Buddhists and learning from various individuals within the community. And slowly but surely, all my prejudices, all my views and my perceptions started to become dismantled. Slowly but surely I was breaking away all of those unfounded thoughts. Now, the teachings of the Buddha Gautama, as his actual real name is, but I'll call him the Buddha from here onwards. I came to the realization that these teachings would be most helpful to me and my cause, and it's for that reason why I've decided to pursue it. I've also learned that these concepts were developed over time, some of which I'm still working through. And these teachings, by no means in this lifetime will I ever learn everything about the vast array of information related to the teachings of the Buddha, the Dharma. It's highly complex, very difficult for this little brain of mine to conceptualize some of these teachings, especially if you grow up in a society based on specific religious concepts, philosophical concepts, that in its essence are grounded in individualism, the sense of the self, and very, very dualistic in its nature. So to try to uncondition that is by no means easy. The teachings spans 2,600 years. So it even predates some of the other major religions in this world. And it's quite profound that it was transmitted from generation to generation through various monastic communities, or the Sangha, through time. And there were specific beings that experienced enlightenment, which I'll come to and explain. There's all these misconceptions about these Buddhist terms. I'll explain it a bit, well, as best as I can to an audience that may not understand it. And for those of you that are very familiar with Buddhism, please forgive me if I get some things wrong, and you're welcome to pop in the comments and just correct me. I'm new and I'm learning, and I'm drawing all this information from various sources, trusted sources. So forgive me if I get some of the interpretations or explanations completely wrong. I think everybody should always be tested for scrutiny. If there are errors that are made, we should be corrected. The teachings dates back between 2,500 and 2,600 years. It is a vast array of texts, and by no means can I cover all of that in my lifetime. I will only focus on the essential elements, and as my learning progresses, so I will uncover more and more and more and more. It's a journey, and this journey is only in its infancy, so I'm still a little baby. But I'm absorbing and I'm conceptualizing, and I'm growing to better understand what is being taught, what is contained in the Dharma. And as I mentioned earlier, it is highly complex. It is extremely complex, and it requires a great deal of repetition and reflection and thinking to fully grasp and understand it, especially if you grew up with a Western-based background. Okay. So, furthermore on Buddhists, if it's anything that forms the foundation of Buddhism, it is called the Four Noble Truths. And this is where I think I bring Krishnamurti back into the conversation after I've explained the Four Noble Truths. So the Four Noble Truths is the foundation of Buddhism. And from there, you have various teachings that flows from it. But essentially, the Four Noble Truths captures Buddhism in its entirety. So what are the Four Noble Truths? So the first Noble Truth is that there is dukkha. So dukkha is translated as suffering, dissatisfaction, pain, and unease. And I'm hoping you're finally coming to maybe connecting the dots in terms of where I'm going to with this and why I've arrived at this point. The Buddha stated that the first noble truth is, in life, there is dukkha. All beings are suffering, are dissatisfied, have pain, have unease. But dukkha, as is translated into English, and this is where language becomes a problem, is generally understood as suffering. But dukkha is more than that. It's more than dissatisfaction, because pleasure can also be dukkha. As I mentioned earlier, I take pleasure in drinking or consuming a great deal of alcohol, and tomorrow I have a hangover. Pleasure can also be deferred dukkha or deferred suffering. And there's many other examples I can give. The second noble truth is called samudaya, and this is related to, or translated as in English as clinging, attachment, craving, and ignorance that all dukkha arises from. So I just want to join the two. I've come to the conclusion that my medical condition is dukkha. My medical condition is dukkha, but it becomes even worse. So that is worsening my dukkha. So it's the parasitic example that I've given earlier. It now becomes even worse. So I've now clung to that suffering. The parasite has now attached to itself, and it's worsened my situation. So clinging attachment results in suffering. the two are interchangeable. The two are inextricably linked. The third noble truth, as described by the Buddha, is called Nirodi. In English, it's translated as the cessation of dukkha, or the cessation of suffering, dissatisfaction, pain, unease. And that by letting go of this clinging, which is samudaya, attachment and ignorance, a state of liberation, can be achieved. And this is called nirvana or nibbana. Now, it's a lot to take in. It took me a while to learn this. Now, I've heard the word nirvana, and this is all part of the misconceptions. And when I heard nirvana, the way it was described to me, or the way that I've read, the way that I've come to see it, is like, oh, it's some sort of fantastical place that you get to if you practice Buddhism. And in reality, that is not the case. It's a lot more complex than that. But I'm not going to get into the complexity of it. Nibbana is not a place. Actually, the word nirvana means to extinguish. That's what the word nirvana means. So those are the three of the four noble truths. That there is dukkha, that there is, which is suffering, dissatisfaction, and pain. That the cause of dukkha is samudaya, which is clinging, attachment, and craving. And that there is nirodi, which means the cessation of dukkha can be achieved by letting go of this clinging or attachment. And that cessation is referred to, or that cessation is essentially leads to nirvana, which is not a place. It's described by, well, it's indescribable. I'm not going to even attempt to describe it. But the closest English translation of the word nirvana or nibbana is to extinguish. There's a fourth noble truth, and the fourth noble truth is called magga, and this is essentially translated as the path to follow to the cessation of suffering, or dukkha. This is also called the Noble Eightfold Path, and it's generally grouped into three parts. So the first part of magga, or the Noble Eightfold Path, the first part is wisdom, which consists of right view and right intention. So that's the first group. The second group is ethical conduct, which consists of right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And then the third group is mental discipline, which consists of right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. So, just to summarize, once again, all life is dukkha. Dukkha arises as a result of samudaya, which is clinging, attachment or craving. It can be ended, nirodhi. So that is the cessation of dukkha, which ultimately leads to nirvana or nibbana. And to do that, there's a fourth way, which is essentially called magga, and that is the Noble Eightfold Path. So at this moment, I'm just going to reflect on something earlier, which I mentioned, and that is on magga. So magga is essentially consists of the three groupings: wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. It essentially provides a framework of life, of how you should be conducting yourself to deal with your suffering and how to address your suffering. Now, it's very similar to, if you can remember from the previous videos, Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga, very similar to that, but not. And Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga, if I can recall, is drawn from what is referred to as the Upanishads. I could be wrong here, but I seem to recall that. And that's from a different teaching. In my view, I think Buddhism is a lot more of a refined version of that, and it is considered the more acceptable approach to take to deal with life's challenges. So before I get to Magga and Krishnamurti, there's the matter of how this differs from what I have grown up to believe. Vastly different. Western-based societies with its practices, possibly Middle Eastern, the Abrahamic religions, very different views, and that have been developed over time. This, on the other hand, outlines a practice or a way of life, in my view, that may be a bit far-reaching for some, and I'm working through the practical application of it. But from what I have seen, as I've gone deeper into, for example, the Noble Eightfold Path and some other aspects of Buddhism, it makes for a much better and rounded human being, and it also allows for better cooperation amongst human beings. Now, by no means am I saying everybody should behave this way, but if I behave aligned to these teachings, it may impact another person, and so it becomes infectious. In my view, it's a very good way, it's a very honorable way, and it's a very virtuous way of living your life. But not only that, it also helps us, and also me personally, to better deal with my neurological condition. Because all of this entire discussion was born out of a condition I was diagnosed with several years ago. So, on Magga, the the Eightfold, or the path of the cessation of suffering, or the Noble Eightfold Path. So I'm just going to, there's something that I identified and I just want to explore this. Very earlier, I mentioned that one of the most famous words that J. Krishnamurti stated was that truth is a pathless land. So in my mind, surely there's a conflict between the two. And this bothered me for a while, until it didn't. I pondered this for a while, and eventually I came to a conclusion. And my own personal interpretation of what Krishnamurti meant. And that what he meant was that we each have to walk our own path to acquire truth and meaning. And if this is the path that I am choosing, it makes sense to me, and it aids me with my affliction. It is the journey that I'm willing to take. Now, Krishnamurti, throughout his teachings, was never prescriptive. He even stated, challenge me what I'm saying. Don't accept what I'm saying. He said this on many occasions. Even the Buddha, he did not teach blind faith. He encouraged his followers or anyone to test yourself, see it for yourself, and then accept it or don't accept it. And that's what resonated with me. So I also was reminded of a discourse from Krishnamurti, or he liked to refer to himself as K, and others affectionately refer to him as K. And some points he also referred to himself as the speaker. He did not like to refer to him as me or I, and that's just him trying to establish his non-dualistic way of thinking. So there was one person in the audience that asked him the question, what do you think? What do you think, Krishnamurti? What do you think of the Buddha? His response to the question was, I don't think of the Buddha. Now, on a surface level, when you hear this response, you would think, that's very interesting. Is he completely disregarding the practice of Buddhism? Or is there a bit more to his response that meets the eye? But immediately the audience, they chuckled in bemusement. And he returned that chuckling with a smirk and a grin. And that's where the conversation ended. I don't think the audience members at that point in time, or even the questioner, and I'm assuming this, didn't really understand the gravity of the response and what the response actually truly meant. Because when I heard the response initially, I was very confused. So he's anti-Buddhism. But he never said that. He never said, I'm denouncing Buddhism. He said that he does not align, or he does not prescribe to any formal religions or dogmas. That's what he stated. So I was very confused by this statement, and I thought about this over and over and over and over. On a very superficial, on a surface level, it may seem as if it's a very veiled denouncement of Buddhism, but on further reflection, I've come to the realization, and this realization came after the practice of Vipassana, that it was neither a denouncement or even a ridicule of the Buddha or even his teachings. It was him merely stating a fact, that he has no attachment to it. He has moved beyond it to even reach Gautama, the Buddha, has as well. He's moved beyond the person of Gautama to become the Buddha. And remember, the Buddha is not a person. It's a title. So just by that, there is no need to even think of it. Then furthermore, K. Krishnamurti expressed his views on thought in many discourses. It's come through quite frequently. His view on thought as a concept in those many discourses, and by using the word think in his response, further concludes my conclusion. Oh, he has strong views rather. He has strong views on thought. And thought is an aspect of the mind. So thought for him was the origination of all the problems, or most of the problems in the world. Thought creates.
Can that suffering end?
Yes, and it cannot end by an action of the brain, because the brain is caught in this suffering,
Of course
and it cannot take an action toward its own suffering.
Of course it cannot. Thought, that's why thought cannot end it.
Yes, because thought has
created
it in any way it is unable to get hold of it.
Yes, thought has created the wars, the misery, the confusion, and thought has become prominent in human relationship.
Well, you see, I think that people might agree with that and still think that thought might still, as thought can do bad things, it could do good things. You see,
No,
I think
thought cannot do good or bad. It's thought.
It cannot get hold of this. The thought cannot get hold of this suffering. That is, this suffering being in the physical conditioning of the brain and chemical. Thought has no way of knowing what it is. Even you see it.
I mean, I lose my son, and
Yeah, but I mean, by thinking, I don't know what's going on inside me. I can't change the suffering inside because I don't. Thinking will not show me what it is. Now you're saying maybe there's an intelligence.
But after all, we're asking, can suffering end? That's a problem.
Yes, and it's clear that thinking cannot do it. No.
Thought cannot do it.
No. All right, because
that's the point.
we've got
if
all
have
that.
an insight into it.
Yes. Now this insight will be the action of the mind, through intelligence and attention.
When there is that insight, intelligence wipes away suffering.
Yes. Now you're saying that therefore there is a contact from mind to matter which removes the whole physical chemical structure, which keeps us going on with suffering.
In that ending, there's a mutation in the brain cells.
Yes.
We discussed this some years ago, this question.
Yes, but that mutation just wipes out the whole structure that makes you suffer. Right?
Therefore, it's like I've been going along a certain tradition. I suddenly change that tradition. There is a change in the whole brain, which has been going north, and now it goes east. There is a
yes. Well, of course, this is a radical notion from the point of view of traditional ideas in science, because if we accept that mind is different from matter, then it's hard. People would find it hard to say that mind would actually.
Mind, after all, is, would you put it, mind is pure energy.
Well, we could put it that way. But say matter is energy too.
Yes, therefore, matter is limited. Thought is limited.
Yes, well, but we're saying that the pure energy of mind is able to reach into the limited energy of matter.
Yes, that's right. And change the limitation.
Yes, to remove some of the limitation.
That's right. When there is a deep issue or problem, which is, or a challenge which you are facing.
Yes, so we have thought, yes, so, and we have to also add that all the traditional ways of trying to do this cannot work because
it hasn't worked.
Well, that's not enough. We have to say because people still might hope it could. You see, it cannot actually.
It cannot.
Because thought cannot get at the basis of its own physical, chemical basis in the cells and do anything about those cells.
Yes, sir. We've said that very clearly. Thought cannot bring about a change in itself.
Yes, and yet practically everything that mankind has been trying to do is based on thought. Right?
Thought.
And there is a limited area, of course, where that's all right, but we cannot, therefore, as we said, we're discussing before, do anything about the future of mankind from the usual approach.
So look, that's what when you listen to the politicians who are so very active in the world, they are creating problem after problem. And to them, thought is the most important thing, ideals.
Well, nobody, generally speaking, nobody can even know of anything else. You see that?
Exactly. We are saying the old instrument, which is thought, is worn out, except in certain areas.
Well, it never was adequate except in those areas. I mean,
of course.
But and man has always been in trouble, as far as we can remember, as far as history goes, right?
Yes, sir. Man has always been in trouble, turmoil, fear. We mustn't reduce all this to an intellectual argument. But as human beings, facing all the confusion of the world, can there be a solution to all this?
Yes, well, and that comes back to the question I'd like to repeat, that it seems that here there are a few people, who are talking about it and perhaps meditating and so on, but how is that going to affect this vast current of mankind?
Probably very little.
But see, I think...
Why do you will it affect? It might or it might not.
It might not. It might or it might not.
Might not.
Yes.
But then one puts that question, then what's the use of it?
Yes, that's the point, that I think there's an instinctive feeling that makes one put the question.
Yes. I think that's a wrong question.
But it's a wrong question. You see, that is, the first instinct is to say, what can we do to stop this tremendous catastrophe?
Yeah. But if each one of us, whoever listens, sees the truth of this, that thought in its activity, both externally and inwardly, has created terrible mess, great suffering, then one must inevitably ask, is there an ending? Is there an ending to all this? If thought cannot end it, what will?
Yes.